But what happens beyond a specific consolidated wave? What about the sequence of such waves and the difference between evolution and disruption? This is probably best explained by looking at the unfolding dynamic from the perspective of diffusion or adoption of innovation. It was Everett Rogers who stated that, based on bell curves mathematics, adopters of any new innovation could be categorized as follows. Firstly, we have innovators, who make up around 2.5%. Next, we have early adopters, a term Rogers himself coined, who represent around 13.5%. Next, we have the early majority, constituting some 34%. Then the late majority, again at 34%. And lastly, the so-called laggards at 16%. Rogers' approach was overly mathematical and, if you want to be cute, not 100% supported by his own or in fact any later data. But he inspired uptake over time to be conventionally represented quantitatively by two types of graphs. Firstly, the sales curve, which shows product sales over time, and secondly, the market penetration curve, or S-curve. The S-curve is the cumulative integral of the bell curve. It is slow at the start, more rapid as adoption increases, then leveling off until only a small percentage of laggards have not adopted. For the majority of products, this shows whether the product is still specialist, having typically not yet sold more than 15% of the total number it is expected to sell within its market, or whether it's become a mainstream product, having sold to typically more than 30% of potential purchasers. This distinction is in particular also elaborated on by Geoffrey Moore, who refers to the chasm between the early adopters of the product, the technology enthusiasts and visionaries if you like, and the early majority, the pragmatists, and how to cross the chasm. Clayton Christensen also has done great work looking at the primary uptake of new products with a focus on the perspective of established companies trying to sustain themselves, and hence he correctly identifies corporate structural change as a necessary precursor to new product innovation. This is essential as quite often an unhappy byproduct of success in one generation of technology is narrowing of focus and vulnerability to competitors championing the next technological generations. Failing firms at such stage are often remarkably creative in defending their entrenched technologies, which often reach unimagined heights of elegance in design and technical performance only when their demise is clearly predictable. Horse carriages were never better or more beautiful than just before they were taken out by cars. But hey, that's the way it is. The Stone Age was not ended by lack of stones, but the advent of new technology. It was again Utterback who showed that a second generation product, also initially functionally inferior to an established one, can and will overtake it if it raises the potential ceiling of functionality beyond the capabilities of the existing product, and so raises customer expectations of satisfaction, leading to dissatisfaction with the existing product, and hence leading to a value gap, opening up a window of opportunity for a new wave of innovation and restructuring of the given market. This then gives rise to the question who, incumbents or newcomers, will be best placed to launch and capture value from such change. This chiefly depends on whether the innovation is evolutionary or revolutionary, i.e. disruptive. It was the one and only Michael Porter who stated that most industry-shattering innovations do not spring from the established competitors in an industry, but from new firms or from established firms entering a new arena. This is true, even so such radical innovations often are seen to be based on the synthesis of well-known technical information or components, what I would call orthodoxy elements of the original composite S-curve, which become sparks of heresy igniting the fire of a new curve. These new innovations occur step by step and exist in embryonic form, sometimes for many years before they become commercially significant. One reason for the lethargy of well-established competitors in the product market in the face of potentially disruptive innovation is that they face increasing constraints from the growing web of relationships binding product and process together. At the start of production of a new product, general purpose equipment, available components and high-skilled people may suffice to enter the market. As both product and market increase in sophistication, more specialization is generally required in equipment, components and skills. Thus, change in one element, the product, requires change throughout the whole system of materials, equipment, methods and suppliers. This may make changing much more onerous and costly for established firms than for the new entrant. Often powerful competitors not only resist innovative threats, but actually resist all efforts to understand them, preferring to further entrench their position in the old products. This sometimes results in a surge of productivity and performance that may take the old technology to unheard of heights. But in most cases, this is a sign of impending death. What also usually doesn't help is that after the typical upwards consolidation of an industry as it goes through the innovation cycle, at this point, this will have led to sizable and complex entities. And quite often these are then run by lawyers and accountants who are quite distant from the underlying technology and literally look down on the new thing coming up and at them out of a garage. In summary, a typical sequence of events involving the traditional firm's response to a technical threat begins with the origination of a technological innovation outside of the established industry, often pioneered by a new firm. Initially crude and expensive, it expands through successive sub-markets with overall growth again following an S-shaped curve. Sales of the old technology may continue to expand for a few years, but then usually stagnate or decline. The new technology passes the old in sales within 5 or sometimes 14 years of its introduction. At the time an invading or even disruptive technology first appears, the established technology generally offers better performance or cost than does the challenger. It's still, as you remember, unperfected. Initial cars were quite inferior to horse carriages in some regard. The new technology may be viewed objectively as crude, leading to the belief that it will find only limited application. The performance superiority of the established technology may prevail for quite some time, but if the new technology has real merit, it typically enters a period of rapid improvement, just as the established technology enters a stage of slow, innovative improvements. Eventually, the newcomer improves its performance characteristics to the point where they match those of the established technology and rockets past it, still in the midst of a period of rapid improvement. Purveyors of established technologies often respond to an invasion of their product market with redoubled creative efforts that may lead to substantial product improvements based on the same product architecture. Here, the established product enjoys a brief period of performance improvement, but the relentless pace of improvement in the new product technology allows the challenger to equal and then surpass the established product. In the short, the market is a voting machine, but in the long run, it's a weighing machine, right? With all of this, please remember that today the focus of innovation is increasingly abstract, as it transcends its previous areas such as techniques, markets, traditions, and processes. Also, in a globalized world where ideas are swiftly copied and everything is connected, its pace and cadence has significantly increased. It took the telephone more than 70 years to connect 50 million users. In today's internet-based technology society, a mobile phone app can achieve the same in a matter of days. As in the past years, the rate of adoption of innovations has accelerated at such a dizzying speed. This intensified innovation leads to, depending on which perspective you take, either a recurring identity crisis for existing products and services or an almost infinite opportunity to break out of the habit of just perfecting the status quo and evolve and do amazing things. Now I know where I stand on this. Do you? So the next question then probably is how to best and objectively judge the potential of an innovation. And that's exactly what we will look at next time. Until then, keep on rocking in the free world.